What is up, FIFA Tears? Welcome back to the 3 FUT Tears podcast with myself, LAJS, and returning after some time away with some problems that have now been resolved. We have got Mersgoth, and we have also got Brad. The whole crew's back.
We are.
Yes.
The whole crew and gang is here.
Not too bad. I mean, Brad's hiatus away has been a bit longer, so...
Yes. Yep. As I have.
We're getting bragging rights on who's got more time off.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But then...
Mr. No Days Off
like
here, you know.
Mine was because of something that happened to me. Yours was more sort of sensitive, I suppose, really.
Something that happened to someone else.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's sensitive. I don't mind talking about it, yeah, but my youngest fell off the slide, broke his arm, and I had to spend my birthday and Mother's Day in hospital.
Not ideal.
No.
Not a present.
That's what I mean. I think in that situation, I think I'd rather something happen to me than I did to my kids, you know. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't have to go that far yet, but agreed. Sentiment-wise. I've just dropped my pen on the floor. That's all good. But talking of dropping the ball, EA have dropped another new interesting promo. I say interesting promo. It's nothing pack-based again.
Yes.
So the only thing we can compare this to, in my opinion, is the Silver Stars promo, where everything was SBCs and everything was objectives. We've got the Showdown cards coming out en masse. So today we ended up getting ourselves a Ryan Kent, which people are clamouring all over. Centre forward Kent with outrageous stats.
Yeah. 95
pace, 88 shooting, etc. And there's also the counterbalance, which is obviously much cheaper, is Yuri Medeiros for Braga. There's many others though, so there's ones that have been down the last few days. There's been Aurier versus oh god, right, why am I blanking already? I swear I prepared. Thank you, Pavard. I was like, it's right back versus right back. Who's the bloody right back? So yeah, Pavard versus Aurier. We've had Suso versus Braithwaite. We've had 2 championship ones, which is Carvalho, who people probably wanted to get a card for a little bit now. One of the ones that's not got a good card, obviously linked with Liverpool in January. And Tavernier, no, not that one. We've got Wout Weghorst and Richarlison, which the fact they've gone for a relegation dogfight one, which firstly, Richarlison being involved in a relegation dogfight's
crazy,
laughable.
Yep.
But those 2 cards look actually mental in themselves. A lot of these cards look really good. We know it's just before team of the season. We know that's coming up. But the consistency across the board, seeing cards of, say, Weghorst's level getting 4-star, 4-star, 92 pace, 91 shooting, 90 dribbling.
Yep.
6'6". It's a mental looking card.
Yeah, and the thing that surprised me specifically about those ones, just before we get on to the others, is when I saw that and saw the Richarlison, I was like, right, I'm doing Richarlison for my squad. Then I looked at his agility and balance, and I was very surprised to see that Weghorst has more agility and balance.
I mean, upgrading things, it's definitely a weird one, I'll give you that. Seeing that they've got to compensate to get some people to do Weghorst.
Exactly, and that's it, isn't it?
Look at a 6'6" frame,
and no one's going to want it because they're going to think he turns like a bus,
like a truck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I do get that, but I just couldn't believe it. I was like, well, actually, this is convincing me now that I might actually want to do Weghorst first. And actually, I think Mers, you've used them both, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got both of them in my team in my 4-2-2 formation, so they're both up top. Up first, it was Richarlison that was outperforming, and then in the later games, so it's 8 games each that I've used them both. So it started off with Richarlison, then Weghorst took over, and it seemed every time Weghorst would go and score, it caused a rage quit. Like,
okay,
the way I would see Weghorst is very much like Winter Wildcards. Who is it? Ibrahimovic, that's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, good old Zlatan. Someone tall with really ridiculous stats and pace and physicality, heading accuracy, like
and
I can
dribbling.
imagine.
God, yeah, if they'd have given him 5-star skills, could you imagine? Oh my.
Oh my god, no!
The day we see a
would
5-star
not
skill
want
in
to see that.
Weghorst,
I would not want to be seeing
I'm pretty certain.
Weghorst.
I mean,
It
Visa.
would have been a
I
lot more
think it's
expensive
Visa,
than it would
the Burnley
than
fan
it
on
was.
Twitter would be losing his mind.
Yeah. Did you think? Do you think?
I mean, the one I'm interested to see actually, just sorry to buy in. The one I'm interested to see what they do with. Do we think honestly that they're gonna do a showdown for silver stars? I know no one really cares for it, like outside of me, but do we think there's gonna be 2 silver stars this week and you choose between them?
That would be cool.
'Cause I think that would be an interesting concept.
Yeah, that would be cool. The only thing with that, I suppose, is like because they're being boosted already from their silver cards. Like it's where do you then go with the winner? Like maybe they because
Well, you give them +2s like everything else.
yeah, which then means that like do they actually perform? Do they look? No, do they actually look or perform any better than they have already been boosted? I don't know if they'd yeah, I don't know. I like it. I think they should definitely do that.
Think about it in the way that Schlotterbeck or Anthony Gordon or Modeste were 72 rated or something like that, but still had insanely good cards if they were say insanely like 84, 85s.
Yeah, and I suppose that Gordon's card was still going to get some boosts.
It would work similar to it would work something like that. I think
they definitely should do that, and even if they did it as like a player pick, so that you
I think that's how they would do it.
You know that they'd do it to get the one, but you choose at the end of it, and that'd be the only one I suppose then that you've done where you can't get both players, which would be a bit annoying for some people maybe. But like I say, I don't know whether a lot of people will be using the silver stars anyway, but they're fun cards for people to use in objectives and things, aren't they? So it's just as long as they make them very fair in terms of your picks, rather than there be clearly like one from a good league and the other one being not so, because then you just know that only one's getting picked.
I would
speak for yourself. I've got to make content.
I don't even think they would make it as a player pick personally. Is what I would say to that. I think they might
give you both players, or
either give both, or they put it in. They will have the normal inform, and then do maybe a own friendly series for it, so that you go in there and it'll have 2 sets of different requirements. So you have to do one, and then you have to do the other one afterwards, or something like that. Or you could try and do both at the same time, depending on what the actual requirements are for the for the objectives.
Or I suppose just do 2 silver stars with slightly different requirements. It would be a shame if you couldn't do both, I suppose, wouldn't it? Given that so far in this promo you've been able to do both cards in each scenario.
It would be, but I think it's something they would do. I mean, it's slightly different. They didn't do it with this promo. It's arguably, I've said, the worst promo. But if we think back to Fire and Ice, when you had the objective versions of
Everton.
Thank you. You got Everton tags. You could only get one version of them.
Yeah,
people would have been.
That's true.
I could have used both, or they probably didn't care and they just wanted the extra one for extra fodder. But that's something that could have been missed out on.
Yeah, the only thing you can hope maybe is that because they're the same player, and you're choosing a version of the same player, that maybe they'd view this differently. But yeah, I think, like you say, I think doing the Silver Stars version of the Showdown would be brilliant. They should definitely keep with the theme for it, rather than just go and do another inform.
Yeah, I agree, but absolutely. I don't think they'll do a player pick because it doesn't seem fitting for me with how EA like to do things, shall we say.
I'm trying to think of games that would be around that time, because that day there would be Everton versus Burnley. That's already been taken care of with the Weghorst, and I'm just going to have a look down some of the games in the top 5.
You also have to think about the time frame as well, because obviously if it's a normal Silver Stars, it's a week long, but because it's Showdown, it has to expire before the game happens. So it's either going to be a game into in a week's time maybe, or it's just going to be a shorter length Silver Stars. So it expires maybe on a Sunday, so it's a Sunday match or something like that.
Yeah, it needs to expire before the next promo, doesn't it?
Playing around that time.
And obviously we do know that
it's too late.
The next promo will be out on Friday, and it is the big one.
The big one?
It does. Doesn't appear to be the big one.
Is it not?
It's not the big one.
No, there's
it's
another
too
promo
early for
beforehand
the
that I've
big
seen.
one.
Oh, okay.
And like last
Do you
year,
want
if
to
you're
get
talking
into which
about
one it is,
tots,
or
Yeah, I thought it was Tots Friday.
no,
I
it would be too
I
early.
don't
for
want to
that.
get into spoilers, but I do know what the next one is.
Oh, okay.
I've seen a player for it.
I haven't seen any leaks for the first time, so
Yeah,
good.
because you still got to have team of team of the knockout stage as well for the UCL before Tots. Because it'd be a bit weird having that out at the same time as Tots.
But I believe Tots is coming very soon.
I know it's coming
Very soon.
Wow, I predict in 2 weeks'
There's
time,
not going to
basically.
be too much of a window. Because you've got the most consistent, and then that gets into the individual leagues afterwards. You're going to have to probably, by 2-3 weeks. That's going to be finito.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know of one promo. The other one might be, as you say, road on the road to the knockouts. It's already been team of the knockouts.
Talking about Tots, obviously we know that everyone's going to get, well, when Tots comes out, everyone gets elite level players, but we want to talk about some of the players that we have enjoyed so far in the build up to team of the season. So since day one to now, let's talk about some of our favourite players. So we'll talk about like some key positions. So we won't go, right, name our best 11. We'll start with goalkeeper. Let's start at the back of the pitch, right? Who has been your best or favourite goalkeeper that you have used so far in FIFA 22? Anybody want to start the ball with this one? I know, Brad, you have a sort of like a heated thought on goalkeepers, shall we say?
Yeah, and I could have just shown you in the game of rivals I just played, where a through ball was played, and my now new 92 rated Spikel, I brought him out to go and just gather the ball up, and he ran past it. So yeah, I don't think goalkeepers are good this year. I think they've messed them up from the first patch when they didn't. Apparently, people didn't like them being too insane, and ever since that, they've never been good. I've tried loads of different goalkeepers. Just tried Mendy for my weekend league, and it was horrendous. The things that were happening, whether it's they just move themselves out of position without you doing anything, or they just collapse to the floor instead of trying to save the ball, or like what I just said about that, he's run past the ball. And I even had this weekend, which I'll touch on in a minute in the patch, was apparently meant to have been fixed. My Mendy ran out to the halfway line for no reason. So yeah, I've not found any goalkeeper this year that's been good. I think they're all rubbish, and I don't think it's goalkeepers as players. I think it's the game, the animation.
I'm trying to think. There's been some heroic ones for me. There's been some heroic ones for me in this FIFA, I believe. Manuel Neuer's done a solid for a fair while for me. I'm trying to think who it was on the RTG, because they pulled off some miracles. So I think Manuel Neuer has been my most used goalkeeper.
Is that standard Neuer?
I'm using Galassi at the moment because standard Neuer. Yeah, no, I don't have the FUT birthday. Timo Horn's inform started the game very well for me. That's one I do remember distinctly.
The best goalkeeper I've had, if I'm going to say one, the best goalkeeper I've had who I've noticed less mistakes with is Donnarumma.
Okay.
Who I barely used.
For me, it's I know who my top 3 goalkeepers are, which is Mendy's Team of the Year honourable mentions, Inform Banu, and third Inform, the 86 rated version of Lafont. I think Lafont has got to be the best out of all 3 of those, because for some strange reason he seems to have a broken animations, but in a positive way. So normally if a goalkeeper doesn't have a save with the feet trait, they don't typically save with their feet. However, he regularly saves with his feet, even though he doesn't have the save with the feet trait.
I had heard that about him, actually. Yeah.
Also, he seems to have a goalkeeper long throw, which again he doesn't seem to have as a trait on his card, I'm pretty sure. So it's very weird with Lafont. It seems like he's got some like hidden stuff that isn't actually there when you visually like look at the card in the traits and stuff. But then when you use him in game, you're like really noticing things, and you're like, wow, how have I not used this guy so far? And the fact that he gets a strong link to going into my next position, centre back, future stars William Saliba, who is my favourite centre back of FIFA 22 so far. The guy is just insane. He's what I want: height, agility, balance, good work rates, decent pace with the shadow on him as well. Like, good all-rounder card that can also play on the ball a little bit as well. What about you two? What are you thinking with centre-backs? Because I think centre-back, you kind of need to have the right person there, because they're the last line of defence before the goalkeeper, really.
Yeah, I'll touch on one that I've used rather than the one that I wish I'd have done and play against every single weekend league. Mine is Chalobah. I took the centre-back Chalobah, and I noticed it because I think I said it when we were actually at the time when we were doing the objectives. When I had his CDM card, his positioning and his defensive awareness was so good. So when it got to the end, I took the centre-back card. He hasn't been any different. His defensive awareness and his ability as a centre-back has been brilliant for me. He's never in the wrong position, never. So I've loved him. I've just recently I had him alongside Twan Zabi, who was also quite good, but because I got mid Rio, I've put him in. He's pretty good as well. So I'm pretty happy with my centre backs. The guy obviously I'm talking about is Flashback Varane. That guy is the bane of my FUT Champs existence. That guy is ridiculous, and if at the time I could somehow have had the fodder or the coins to waste, because obviously I keep coins for series, I would have loved to have done that card because he's just ridiculous.
As I assume you want to jump in on Mr. Tumble?
Yeah, what? Why? He's such a fraudulent card, Mr. Tumble. Like, how can you think that he's a bane? If anything, he's just a laughing stock of a centre-back. You can easily get him past him. If you do a few, like, tricks, boom, you're past him. Easy. And then it's always the other centre-back that has to come in and ditch. Like, get Varane out of the trouble that he's just basically caused. In one-on-ones, Varane is terrible. Like, he's good at intercepting because he's got go-go gadget legs. But that's about it. And maybe occasionally just being a brick wall. If you play drop back and negative FIFA, I think Varane is a good centre-back for that. But if you're like someone who plays a high line and someone maybe go over the top, his like balance and him turning like a truck is a very big problem. And I think like if you like for me where I play a high line and I play an aggressive style, having someone like Ramos is much better than having Varane, and then having Saliba next to Ramos is like perfect like matchup, because you've got one that will like to get back and then one that likes to push up to try and win the ball further up. And I just find Varane is just like nowhere near any of those like two for me. Like, well, I never did the flashback, but I was never going to do the flashback because team of the year, not team of the year, team of the season. Varane last year, didn't really like it that much. I thought there was much better cards at centre back than him. Normal Varane, never ever got on with him once. Just saying that, right? Controversial.
Any talk, Brad? Just
I'm sitting here just in shock.
In a debate here.
Actually, just in shock. I play against him every single team.
Already.
And he's ridiculous. He's always in the right position. He's never causing problems, and I have to do a lot of work to get past him. The fact you were saying about if they don't play defense drop back, everyone I play with pretty much a weekend league is on drop back. It seems like. So yeah, I think I counted at least 7 players back on every single attack in FUT Champs this weekend. Yeah, no, I think he was, when they said at the start about him being end game centre back for that money, I definitely think he is. I think he'll be in people's end game teams all the way to the end of the game.
Well, I happily enjoy seeing that in FUT Champs every weekend. And
me and you play different games.
That is probably very true.
I knew this opinion from a mile away. I knew Mers absolutely slags him off in his reviews every single time, Mr. Tumble.
So, do you have an opinion on him?
He loves it. I just find him like okay. Like I can deal with him. He's a defender that, as Mers says, if I target him 1-on-1 with skills, I can just come out on top, and I do skills. Not like to the extent that some people do, Leo, but I do skills to an extent that I can get past him somewhat ease, or just pass and move. It's just I'm good at breaking down teams, is what I'd say.
Yeah.
So I don't really mind what centre backs they have. Mers touched on my favourite there, personally, in that bit as well when he mentioned Ramos.
Mm-hmm.
That FUT birthday Ramos is different gravy.
He is.
Just going to be real short and sweet here.
Yeah, he suits the aggressive style of defending, like trying to win the ball back at a more higher up position than like trying to sit back. And even if you sit back or something like that, the fact that he's an aggressive style of centre back is good. Because like if you see like that little window of opportunity to win the ball back, pretty much 9 times out of 10, maybe even slightly more, like 99
Is he still
times
high
out of
attacking
100.
this year?
Yeah, he's high
He's still
medium.
high attacking, medium defensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, so I automatically wouldn't try him. I like high defensive work rates.
Yeah, I get that.
That's
That's because obviously it encourages them to get back a bit more, basically, high defensive.
So with me, my personal thing on the... I also remembered who my goalkeeper was. I went onto the RTG to check. It was Bijlow, the 85.
Oh,
was my
yeah,
guy
yeah.
for
Yes.
quite a while on that account. Bijlow, Squad Foundations, for me, has been quite the player, even though he's against all my principles of needs good kicking, needs good weak foot. Goalkeepers are all the same. He's not hit any of them. He's got bad weak foot, can't kick, but he still has good saves. So I've always liked that card as much as it doesn't suit me on paper. But Ramos suits my style. When I defend, I'm very much almost like a manual press. I will drag centre backs to try and
Same. Yeah.
put the player away and push them further out wide. Like I will drag multiple players, just go bang, right, sod it.
Yeah, me too. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes
I'm
not.
being very hyper aggressive.
Yeah.
It worked. I also do just jockey and sit off people when doing it. Like I'll try and sort of almost shepherd them away in places. So that's what Ramos has been really good for me on. That's sort of why I like the high attacking. I don't like it on some people, like St. Just, for example. Oh, St. Just. On paper, you'd think, 90 plus pace defender, centre back. Oh, that's a really good card.
Yeah.
And then you see his positioning's so bad. He's got the same work rate, but just does not work anywhere near as well for me.
Yeah, I think it's just down to that lower rated cards, isn't it? So you think, it's all about the pace, but it's not. You need the defensive stats. That's why having, I don't know, a centre back with 82 pace but 90 base defending before you even put a chem style on, it makes so much of a difference in game.
Yeah.
But
And I think we
moving,
did say this at the start of the year, didn't we? That this year it seemed like more like, pace weren't going to just win you everything. You needed to have high defensive stats.
I distinctly remember my opinion on that and saying that Mats Hummels is a great defender.
Hummels, yeah, I
that
remember,
changed
yeah.
very
Yeah.
quickly.
yeah, but moving on to the fullbacks then. So for me, since I packed Team of the Year Hakimi, I don't use anybody else at right back. So don't really get to use anybody else. And I don't want to say Hakimi's the best right back that or fullback that I've used so far this year. I'm actually going to say Rule Breakers Cornet is actually the best fullback that I've used. The fact that that card still holds up right now. He's made a resurgence back into my team because Veghorst gets a nice strong link to him. Plus that he was in my team previous week for that. He's so strong. He's just so strong at winning the ball back, basically. I mean, he's got 84 physical on his card, but there's just something about Cornet that I just seem to love so much. But what about you two? What have you... Who's your favourite fullback? Left back or right back? Or even wing back? I know this is going to be hard for you, Luke, because you don't use fullbacks.
I occasionally do. I've used them from time to time. So when I had my Serie A team, I played 4-back with that. Actually, sometimes I did. Sometimes I play 3-back with the Italian league side. So for me, it's a toss-up between Spinazzola Winter Wildcards or it's Showdown Darmian. A toss-up between the two. I think I lean slightly more towards the Spinazzola. I think I use that more. So I think based off a full-back definition rather than left mid, right mid, which are actually just attackers anyway, or Frimpong. If Frimpong's right mid card counts, then I'll put that there. But if not, if it's straight up full-backs, I'm saying Spinazzola.
I've got a couple. And essentially one just replaced the other because I bought one tradable. So Winter Wildcards Semedo, I loved him. I thought he was brilliant. Always seemed to be able to catch up with players, which I don't seem to happen a lot. A lot of times you find that, like, I don't know if you guys do find this, but I find myself shouting, how can I not catch up, you know, blah 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 paced player with this striker or this defender, because they've got more pace. And I know it's not in the game necessarily that 95 pace means they can catch a 85 pace striker, but you know, you do think that there should be some that should be able to happen in most scenarios. But it seemed to happen with Semedo, and he seemed to be able to catch up and was always defensively in the right places. But I did replace him when the SBC came out for Ryan Fredericks, and yeah, he's been brilliant. I think part of the reason I like him is because I don't necessarily use my right backs and left backs to defend as much as I do for them to distribute, and because he's got the 5-star weak foot, it really does help. So yeah, so I've really enjoyed using him.
Okay, now we're going to move into the midfield area. So we're going to talk about CDMs to Cam, but we're going to pick one of the players. So I think it's a bit hard because whether you pick an attacking midfielder, a balanced one, or a defensive one. But I'm going to have a little bit of a think right now. So I'm going to put it down to one of you two to chip in right now and say who you think is your most favourite central midfield player that you've used so far this year.
Obviously for me, I start in a formation that isn't what I play in games, so actually my favourite midfielder in my team isn't actually a midfielder.
Okay.
But they play in midfield, point being
flashback
like
Mahrez, who is insane. Because again, his skill moves, his passing are brilliant, but also his left foot finesse shots are ridiculous. So I like him in my midfield. But if I'm gonna, like, gun to my head, choose a midfielder, then I still do use, and I really do enjoy, especially now he's been upgraded, the road to the knockouts Bernardo Silva. He just feels good on the ball. Like, I like my players to feel like they're responsive to the stick when they're turning on the spot, and he does. Like, he's like, and I liken that to like how I feel about flashback Neymar. Like, I feel confident when he's got the ball that I can turn anyone to create space to get a pass away or to get a shot away, whatever. And he's one of them players I do like.
Yeah, he was one of those like early released cards that was just like so much ahead of everything else that was out special wise. I feel that came out, and yeah, sure, the fact that it had the requirement that you had to put in a road to the final card into the SBC to do it, but I thought it was well worth doing anyway. It was definitely don't sleep on kind of SBC, and the only sort of maybe other SBC at that time that was you got to do it is Fekir. I think around that sort of time, that was probably the only sort of other SBC that you like had to maybe do, because if you missed out, and you're going to regret it. And a lot of people, I think, if you said to people, what maybe SBC do you regret not doing, and I think a lot of people would say Fekir or maybe Bernardo Silva or something like that, especially in those early stages of the game, because you need something that can give you longevity, and that card gave you longevity. And well, he hasn't had another special card that matches that as well, because he's got his man of the match, but it's low rated, because that's 88 rated. He's got informs, I'm pretty sure, which again, low rated. Has he got an inform, or is that just my imagination? He must have a inform.
Bernardo Silva, I'm sure, has got one inform at least.
He's got one inform, yes. 87 rated inform, yes.
Yes, he has.
So again, you see, so it's going to be a while, and hopefully, fingers crossed, he's going to get a team of the season. And that's going to be the only card that really surpasses that from him.
And I do get what you mean about Fekir. I do have him, and I did use him a lot, and he is on my subs bench. But I have this thing where, like, I couldn't put all three of them in because for me there's too many left footers in midfield. I don't like, I like to have that. I need to know that I've got a right-footed midfielder in there, just to help me out a little bit. So I've got Makaleli, who's more my defensive midfielder anyway. But yeah, I would probably still play for Kiel. Actually, I'd like to try out his FUT birthday. I've not tried it out in draft or anything, and he does look insane. I've just done that new Showdown Thiago Mendes, who I'd also like to try out just to see what he's like, because he's got 88 agility and 88 balance, which looks quite nice. But again, he's right-footed. He doesn't fit directly into my team unless I play him off chem. So, but I would like to maybe try a Brazilian team, or just try him out just to see what he's like, and maybe he would then maybe take the place of Makaleli, or maybe even take the place of one of the other midfielders. I don't know. It's tough for me. It's tough.
What about you, Luke? You got some favourite central midfielder?
You have put me in quite the quandary, because I've got a few players, mostly DMs I'm looking at actually.
Okay.
But then I do have the Nkunku problem. Of Nkunku's just been so good for me all year. I've done his player of the month at the moment because I had just random fodder sitting around. Thought I'll do his player of the month. Why not? So I've got the 90 player of the month now. But I've been using his rule breakers, whether it be the shooting or passing version, depending on which account.
Yeah.
Ever since it came out, I've got his for the past and present. I've got his 88 right mid card. It doesn't seem to leave me. It's almost like the man who we know I'm inevitably going to say for striker. He just doesn't leave the club. He just doesn't leave the team. He's there. It just works. So, Nkunku would be my attacking option, but I've got some defensive ones that I look at and go, this new McKennie I want to try out. He's not getting the upgrade. We'll get into that in a little bit. And it was a funny game for it to happen in as well, but I've got Zacharias Headliners. That card did bits for me when he was in the Bundesliga. I've not used it as much now at Serie A, but it's still a very nice card. And then we've got Patrick Vieira's base icon card, which I've played about 130 games with.
Yeah.
That's been as solid as you expect Patrick Vieira to be.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You expect that, don't you? Like, for that kind of...
Yeah, if we're talking
priced...
about unexpectedly good, then we get into a different bracket here. But I think I'm just going to have to go with Nkunku based off of sheer volume of usage.
Mm-hmm.
That he's just been an ever-present. That I'm going to have to just go with Nkunku on that.
I think, for me, I just got to say the most capped player in my club, which is Kante. 764 games. There is no CDM. That is quite like Kante. Try out other cards.
Is this flashback?
No, this is just ordinary gold.
No, this is normal Kante.
Just normal Kante.
Okay.
Just normal Kante. I packed him untradeable, put him in the team. I will go, okay, this week I'm having a Liga team mixed with a La Liga team, so take Kante out. I'm like, okay, these CDMs are alright, but they don't seem to perform as well as Kante. Bring Kante back in the team. No, it's a big difference. Defensive output in midfield. So, yeah, there's nobody that I feel is anything like Kante when it comes to defensive midfield. In terms of Cam, but what about, like, wide midfielders or even right wingers, left wingers? Who would you say now? For me, I'm going to go with the strong link to corner. And now I'm going to say winter wildcards, Zaha.
Okay.
He can play at
That's a
striker, can play out wide, he can play at cam. He's a nice flexible option to have in the team. How many games have I used this Zaha for? I have used him for 265 games. Now, most of the time I've used him at cam rather than as an actual physically wide player, but he is a wide card, so that's why I'm saying him. Not really much else I can say other than he's obviously he has got 5-star skills, but I'm not really a 5-star skiller at the end of the day. When I do skills, it's very basic stuff that is like maybe 3 stars and 4 stars and stuff, so that wasn't necessarily essential to me, but it's just like one of those cards that when I see him, because he is one of those usual suspects that tend to get a card like every year. And when I see it, do it, try it out. He's not too bad, I guess. But what about you two?
I did that card, and for a while he was in my team, and I played him at left centre mid, and yeah, he's brilliant. And weirdly though, so you said about the 5-star skills thing. So I never used 5-star skills, right? Not in any FIFA I played. And even when I got Zaha, I didn't actually use 5-star skills still. Then I got Flashback Neymar, and everything changed. I don't know why. Suddenly I felt like I was be able to do 5-star skill moves that I've never done before, and the guy just pulls them off so swiftly, so easily, and I have found it fun to attack people and like do rainbow flick volleys and stuff. Just like he's changed the way I play FIFA, and actually I have a bit more fun now when I'm attacking because of that card. As I just talked about him, he's just scored. And yeah, he for me is my favourite player that I've used this year. Like in terms of if we were to pick any position, Flashback Neymar is my favourite card that I've used. I play him at left striker though, so I don't play him as a winger. I don't play a wide formation. I play 4-3-1-2, and then I think I go to like a 3-5-2 if I'm losing and want to push everyone forward. So I don't actually use any wide players, but like I said, I use Mahrez as a right centre mid. I used Zaha as a left centre mid, and I use Neymar at left striker. So they are wide players, but I don't use them in a wide formation because I like to play quite narrow.
So there's again a couple that come up for me, and then not ones you'd instantly think of. They're in mainly, I think, in off leagues. There's one that isn't. I'll get him out the way, but he's again not one you'd think of. Road to the Knockouts, Politano. That SBC card, yeah. Brad laughs because well, that was
he
the
went
thing
goodbye straight away. Yep, me.
This card is actually nutty. Even if you look at the card and it came out today, you'd think, oh, it's all right. Like, that's still an okay card. It's not an April card, but it's got 95 agility, 93 balance, 90 plus pace, 85 shooting would be the bit you'd look at and go, but it's a winger. So those stats across the board are actually fairly insane.
Yeah.
So that's a contender from me. These are all actually fairly old cards, because my next one I've got to look at is David Neres, Squad Foundations.
A card I regret not doing.
That card plus Anthony, for me, in the RTG was so good for so long. I played them at striker together at some point.
Yeah, doesn't surprise me.
I think one was playing right mid, one was playing right forward in a 3-5-2. Andre Silva obviously on the left. We know that's my striker pick. Let's just get that out of the way. he a close second's Puskas, but we'll get into that. Those two, I could use 5-star skills with. Just as Brad said, I'm not the most frequent user of 5-star skills, but those two as a pairing just worked. The finesse shots, the dribbling, the fluency, it was all there for me on a winger. And if we're looking left side, I'm trying to think anyone that I've used a lot. First person I see that I've used a lot is Chong. Chong as a sub came on a lot for me.
Yeah.
So the Squad Foundations do bits for me is what we're finding out here. Squad Foundations do bits. My favourite goalkeeper, winger, other winger. There's been some great cards. Kostic, those, as I think Mers said in there, has been my left mid in a 3-5-2 for a while. Gosens also popped up, but that's more in the wing back roles, so we're not talking about them there, but they deserve a mention. And then outside of that, I have used off leagues. Carlson's Player of the Month was actually surprisingly good as well. I don't think it's the same level as the others, but that's still probably the best left mid in the Eredivisie that I've used.
Yeah, I've got to admit, Chong's been one of my super subs in midfield for a while.
And last but not least, and probably I would say the most critical part of any team, the striker. Now, like Lucas just said, his clear favourite is, it's easy to know, Andre Silva, Puskas second. So he had to.
And then if we're asking for an original pick outside of them two, Tammy Abraham's FUT birthday.
Okay, not bad. What about you, Brad? What would you say? I mean, we could also go with, if those that are newer to the podcast as well, you could explain why Andre Silva, of all players, is your most favourite striker.
Okay, we can get into that. It's a very weird story. It's almost like a proving people wrong situation that then became borderline obsession. So I said pre-FIFA, that looks like a great starter card. and people were telling me, no, you're an idiot. That's 4-star, 3-star, lanky, not pacey. You're an idiot. Then I played my first game with him. It was, I think it's still on my channel, and he scored a hat-trick on 4 chemistry against the OP goalkeepers week 1. And about then is when I knew that card was going to be one that I would use for a while. And now I own two shirts, one RB Leipzig and one an Icon away kit. So I got hooked real good.
He's got hooked, and he might be going to Arsenal.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. This
That's something.
shirt I'm holding
I
up
mean,
will be getting
to be fair,
probably
based on the
burned if
current
that
scoreline,
happens.
you need a striker.
Yeah, it's not looking good. But what about you, Brad? Who's your most favourite striker?
Yeah, so as I said, like obviously I use Neymar as a striker. So I'm going to actually say to someone who is my super sub striker, who I generally bring on. What I tend to do, depending on obviously how the game's going, I tend to bring off my Del Piero, who plays Cam for me, and I put Neymar in Cam for the last part of the game, and I bring on Openda, his Squad Foundations card. And like Luke said, Squad Foundations do bits. This card does bits. It's just, I can't tell you what it is about it, other than the fact that he never misses. Whenever I shoot and I'm through with him, he never misses. It's always a case of the goalkeeper's got to save it if he's going to do anything, because he never misses the target. And he just feels rapid. Like, his first touch away to get away from somebody just puts him so far clear, and he never feels like he gets caught up. So yeah, I obviously can't tend to get him into a squad straight away, otherwise he probably would have been in my starting team for a long time. But being that he's Belgian, from the Eredivisie?
Eredivisie.
Yeah, so unless I'm linking him around icons, I can't fit him in on full chemistry. But when he does come on from like the 60th or 70th minute, if I need that last goal, or I'm drawing and I want to get a goal, he is the guy I turn to, and he never really fails to deliver.
Right, okay, so there's a bit of a theme going on with my central players and even my wide players, right? So all my central players are French, and the wide players are from French-speaking nations, because obviously Cornet and Zaha from Ivory Coast, or Côte d'Ivoire as they prefer to be called, which is French-speaking nation. So my striker, I was going to probably say Benzema, because obviously he's the one that's been out the longest, flashback Benzema. However, I'm going to say flashback Griezmann, because whereas I will sub off Benzema late in the game because he seems to have less of the stamina left, so I want a fresh pair of legs, whereas Griezmann will stay on for the full 90, and I think Griezmann tends to do a bit more for the team as opposed to Benzema. Like, he will chip in with assists, score goals. I can play him at cam, I can play him at striker, so he's got a bit more flexibility as opposed to Benzema. But I do love that Griezmann card, but he's been dropped for Weghorst and Richarlison this week, so he might be coming back when I've made my mind up which of the two from Richarlison and Weghorst I want to keep in the team, and then have one of those two and Griezmann up top probably next week. So yeah, Griezmann I absolutely like. I seem to be a sucker for being the boring EA French players.
Meta.
Basically, I normally criticise people picking the boring players, and there's me right now naming the boring selections that are French. I can't help it, right?
It's alright. It's alright. We've had a mention of Varane and Neymar by someone else here as well. Like, you're not the only one.
And it weren't like you said your two favourite strikers are Ben Yedder and Mbappe. So
No,
at
he
least
said
Griezmann is a little bit different. I don't.
And he brought up Fekir as well.
I don't see Griezmann as much as I see Mbappe and Ben Yedder in teams. So even though when I do come up against that flashback Griezmann, I do hate playing against him.
Yeah, he's really good inside the box and trying to find space. Whereas I think like Benzema has to have a little bit of space around him to do stuff. Whereas I think Griezmann can do things in a bit more of a tighter scenario inside the box when people are playing drop back and stuff.
And that's a perfect segue, because as we're talking about playing drop back, I played FUT Champs this weekend.
Yes.
Have you guys played FUT Champs this weekend?
I did.
Both?
No, I planned on it, but I didn't.
Okay. So,
Time got away
I
from
mean,
me.
clearly we've seen so far anyway that it seems like me and Mers play different games. Because once again, Varane again was the bane of my life. But actually, the reason he's the bane of my existence on FUT Champs is because people insist on not defending. That is the thing that bothers me. They don't want to defend. They don't want to use their players in their team, their ultimate team, where they get to choose all the players they want. They let the AI do it for them, and that absolutely winds me up. However, there was some patch updates at the end of March that obviously we're now in post-patch. And I'm just going to touch on them first to see if anyone noticed any of these changes. So the drag-to-drag skill move can be interrupted earlier in the animation. So this was the one that was obviously, it was OP. You couldn't get the ball off them, or if you did, you caused a foul at the end of the animation. But now, apparently you can now interrupt it earlier. You can tackle them earlier in the animation. It says, when the attacking player was performing a cross, auto-switching did not occur expected for the defending team if they were using containing on a player, so it wouldn't auto-switch to the right player. It says, when a goal is scored in the last moment of a match, it wasn't being counted towards the result. I fortunately haven't experienced that, and if I did, I think I probably would have had a broken controller at least by now. Then the next one is something that did happen to me this week, and I can't believe I'm seeing it in a patch fix when it literally happened to me, and I wish I was well enough to stream this weekend. It says, in some rare situations, the goalkeeper is rushing towards a ball carrier without being requested to do so. Now, I touched on my animation issues and my issues with goalkeepers. This weekend, I had a goalkeeper move to the side as if he was blocking off like the left-hand side of the goal when I didn't move him at all. I don't move my goalkeeper. I don't see the point because they're rubbish anyway. And yeah, he just moved to the side, left an open goal. The guy just hit it down the middle of the goal. That was it. Goal scored. Then, in a game when I was 7-7, so bear in mind it's been a pretty much a back and forth exchange of goals. There was never more than 2 goals between us. At 7-7, I'm running out to the wing to defend one of his wingers, and I see him shoot. And I was like, what's he doing that for? And I then realised that my Mendy in my goal has run out to around about the halfway line. And he's seen it on the radar and shot and scored from pretty much almost just past the halfway line. So that to me that is a rare situation, but apparently that has not been fixed because that actually happened to me this weekend. But generally, one thing I touched on in my tweet was the difference in gameplay from Friday lunchtime to Saturday. I cannot believe that this game is a multi-billion-pound game and they still don't have servers that are good enough to handle the amount of traffic they get at a weekend for you to notice the difference in gameplay. On Friday lunchtime, my gameplay was smooth. I was 4 for 4. I then came up against, your top probably 200 players in the world, and they were skilling the hell out of me, and I obviously lost my next 2 or 3 games. But then I came back on Saturday and I thought, well, it's okay. I've got 4 wins, 3 losses. I'm still doing okay. And everything felt sluggish. In the mud, delays at least of sort of half a second to pass a ball, to trigger a skill move, and it felt almost unplayable. I don't know whether you noticed any different or what day you played your games on, Mers?
So I played pretty much the bulk of them on Friday with, I think I only had about 6 left, and I played all of those on Saturday morning.
Okay.
So
did you notice a change from Friday to Saturday?
No. Actually, no. Yes, I did, and I think Saturday was better. It was a lot easier. Maybe that was because my opponents felt a lot easier, so I had an easier time, but Saturday felt easier for me anyway.
So it was, yeah, so do you mean easier in terms of just the opponents you came up against to beat them kind of thing?
To the opponents, the gameplay felt maybe a little bit smoother as well.
Okay.
First thing what time was it? It was about something like 10, maybe 9:30 to about 11:30 or something like that. I managed to get the 6 games that I had remaining done.
Right. So, yeah. So I don't know whether this is another thing. So mine was later on. I didn't get on till around about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I don't know whether it is a case of that, like it's just there's more traffic on the server. than there was when Mers was on earlier in the morning, or whatever, or what we're experiencing in terms of is it my internet connection? Is it something else? But I spoke to on that day I was sort of in a party chat with a couple of people that were also playing champs, and they do notice that like when it gets to a weekend that it's almost unplayable just because of delay, and you get the game is bad enough in my opinion in terms of you still sometimes can't pass to the right player, you still can't sometimes select the right defender despite the triangle above their head saying that's the one you need to select, without having to then fight against poor sort of sluggish gameplay, and your nimble 5-star skiller is now suddenly not so nimble and delaying every skill move you trigger in, or every shot you take is an extra touch because it's not registered it straight away. And I find in that sense, from what I found a mode to be a lot more enjoyable this year than ever in the past, I actually found this weekend's FUT Champs as my least enjoyable, and I raged a hell of a lot. My neighbours would definitely have heard.
But I think we've got some news about the World Cup from this week, haven't we?
We do. So there's been the cup draw, obviously. We've just... I'm going to just crack straight into the England group whilst I bring up the rest of the qualification groups. We know for a fact that England have got, and I'm sure this will be clipped when we inevitably draw with America, the easy group. Air quotes. I've done the air quotes. If you watch the YouTube vid, I have fully gone air quotes. We've got the easy group, considering where they were in the pots, etc. We've got an international incident possibly actually happening with America, Iran, the UK pretty much possibly being in it as well, with Wales and Scotland possibly to qualify into this group. The other one being Ukraine. So it's all tensions running high, that technically, if Scotland get through, we could be facing a weekend of football that features the US versus Iran and England versus Scotland.
Yes.
That screams international incident. there will be... I don't even want to begin to get into what that's going to be like.
Some pubs might not play those games.
They will. They won't play the America versus Iran one, but they'll play England, Scotland.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All day long. But Group A, I've still not got the page up, by the way, it's being really slow to load. But Group A, I know for a fact, has got Qatar, Ecuador, Netherlands,
and Senegal.
And Senegal, yes. So some interesting games in there. I think they've swapped around what game's actually going first as well, if I recall. What? Because I believe normally the host nation would be on first, but I've read somewhere that they've swapped it round, that actually the Netherlands versus Senegal will be the first game.
All right. Purely
because it will be a better game to watch after the opening ceremony, and might for viewer retention purposes.
Really?
I don't know if this is just around April.
I remember, was it when Russia hosted? What was that first game?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Russia versus... It was a terrible game.
Yeah. But...
Saudi Arabia, I'm going to say?
Yes, something like that. It was...
Oh, no, was it Egypt?
Egypt, I think. Yeah. It was a very, very bad game.
Because I remember there being a really bad game.
So I'm surprised that they've decided to change their mind. Unless it's based on that, they've changed their mind. To take away from an anticlimactic game.
Because you look at some of the ones where you think, oh, underwhelming. South Africa, back at their World Cup, had a very good opening game. With the famous dance that everyone so much that they love on FIFA. They can't help but do that every time they score.
Yeah, I love that. Love that celebration.
Little hand wave and the... Yeah. Let's just move off that quickly. And moving to Group C, which is Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico and Poland. Yeah. So I think if we're being bold, Argentina are finishing top. Really, really bold claim here from me. Favourites finish top. Who do you back, though, out of Mexico and Poland to get through?
Mexico. I don't know whether Poland are quite the same force as they were.
Well, my argument is I don't think they're a force, period.
Yeah, maybe not.
If you look at them at the World Cup last time, I think they're in a group with... They were definitely in a group with Colombia. I'm trying to remember the other two. but Poland came bottom of that group, despite having Lewandowski, Błaszczykowski, Szczesny, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Kamil Glik. We go on.
Yeah.
But is this maybe a bit more of a new Poland side? We know Matty Cash has declared for them now. They've been doing all right. Do we see them coming over the likes of Mexico, who's...
Yeah, I still think Mexico get second.
I think Mexico will pip it, basically. I think it might be like a 1 point difference or something like that. I think it'll be very tight, but it also depends on which order the games are. Like, because I haven't actually looked up what order the games are. So maybe if it was like Poland and Mexico was the last game, they go head to head in that final game.
So I believe the way the games go is based off the order you read them out. So
Okay.
When I'm reading them out, it's the top two face each other, then it's first versus the third one in the thing, then first versus the fourth, so that way.
Okay.
So I believe opening game would be Argentina, Saudi Arabia, and Mexico versus Poland.
Oh,
Would
okay.
be the opening game.
Interesting.
So I think the big game's the first game.
Yeah, so that could
that
that
group.
out of them two could potentially decide second or third.
Yeah.
Or even, I suppose, if miracles happened, if a draw could set up something nice for Saudi Arabia, but I doubt it.
Nah.
What, when you say set up something nice for Saudi Arabia, what of how much goals they concede affects who goes through? Or...
Yeah, basically.
Because that could be what matters. Goal difference at that point could matter, or maybe if one of them nicks a point against Argentina, we don't know. But I think I agree with you and back Mexico, but part of me's got like a sneaky feeling that Poland might sneak through despite Mexico having such a good record in recent times of getting through to the knockouts. Logic tells you it'll be Mexico.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a South American top two.
It's distinctly possible. I'm just going to look up who's in this. So the reason I'm saying I'm going to have to look this up is there's IC Playoff 1, which I have to look
Yes,
who
in the
is
Group
actually
D,
in
yeah.
that side of it. So we've got France, IC Playoff 1, Denmark, Tunisia. So who is IC Playoff 1? I feel I'm tempted to say it's like New Zealand or something.
No, that's
versus...
Group E. So it's Australia, UAE, and Peru. So Australia and UAE, I think, are going against each other, and then they play Peru, the winner of that match. So it's basically 2 games before we know who is actually going to be the...
But it's basically a mix
like the
of
other one with the
Australia,
Wales.
Peru,
basically.
and... Who was the other one?
UAE.
UAE. United
okay.
Arab Emirates.
So it doesn't actually make a difference to their group then, really.
I mean, Peru knocked out Colombia, so I will vouch on that front. Peru knocking out Colombia means
France...
it could be an underdog story. They got Korea.
Well,
I still think France and Denmark
yes.
both beat both of them. So
I mean, that's true, but there are upsets that happen. Talking of Denmark, them winning the Euros, Greece winning the Euros, there can be random underdog sort of results that happen.
I love that with Greece. I was in Greece at the time.
And after the Euros as well, Denmark have probably got another thing to rally behind still, so they could always do something.
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, Mers, but it's now 3-0 in the Crystal Palace.
Alright, okay, that's the top
Zaha's scored a penalty.
It's
not
over, but it certainly is making things a bit too closely
it
contended.
means North London derby means a lot now.
Yeah. Uncomfortable.
You've got the harder games, but you've got more frequent harder games to touch on that, because you've got Chelsea, United, West Ham, and then the Spurs game in there as well. While Spurs have got Leicester, and they've got Liverpool as the big games. Liverpool at Anfield, so I expect that to be a full-blown loss. But outside of that, I think it's mainly... I think we have to face Norwich in there, actually.
Oh, an easy game.
I think it's, quote, easier games, but obviously when they're fighting relegation, they're not easy games anymore. So, on paper, they're easier. So Brentford, Brighton, Villa... It's not, especially with Spurs' inconsistency this season. Last game of the season is Norwich. Second last is Burnley. Third last is Arsenal. North London derby, 3 games from the end is going to be big. Group E, we've got Spain, Germany, Japan, and then the international sort of or intercontinental.
So where are we saying? You think
2.
France and Denmark are going to be first and second? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I think if Peru get through, they'll finish ahead of Tunisia.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if they could push beyond Denmark. Denmark's still got a very good team though. Eriksen's in the form of his life, which I think everyone's happy to see that he's doing very well for Brentford.
Yeah. And is he still playing at national football?
I think,
do we know?
Yes, because he scored during
with his first touch.
Okay.
So he's on a bit of a purple patch in the last 2-3 games he's played. He's been fairly influential to say the least. So I think, honestly, the best respect people can pay to Eriksen now is that they don't have to feel happy that he's doing good because of what happened. He's just being good, period.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that was the spark that lit him. We don't know, because beforehand he was starting to do all right at Inter. Like, he'd become a bit of an integral player at Inter towards the end, but he started slow, wasn't doing the best at Spurs when he left. Maybe it's the sort of woken him up, sort of lit a fire under him and gone, "Joe, I will play to the best extent I can." And maybe that's it. Maybe I'm looking into that too much.
It might not even be that. It might just be that he definitely, because of how close it was for him, just feels like this is a real second chance, and he's just going to grab it by the horns, you know.
Absolutely. Now, the Intercontinental Playoff 2 was New Zealand, I believe. Then who are they playing, Mers?
Costa Rica. So, Costa Rica,
former mid-2000s mainstay. That is interesting.
Also,
who do you back out of that?
That's out of Costa Rica, New Zealand?
Yeah, I think Costa Rica.
I would say Costa Rica personally, myself, because I think Keylor Navas basically has that ability, obviously, to keep New Zealand out a bit, and then just maybe get a 1-0 victory or something like that. And then
Chris Wood's not been firing for Newcastle. And the only other New Zealand player I can think of, and he might not even be New Zealand, he might be Australians, Winston Reid.
Yeah.
I can't remember which way around Winston Reid is,
he's New Zealand.
He's definitely New Zealand, yeah.
Okay. Thank God. Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's Spain and Germany, isn't
Spain and Germany. So, Mers, which way around do you think this is going to go? I'm asking this very loaded question to Mers first.
I'm wearing my Spain 2009 home kit right now. And for me, it depends, because Germany weren't very good at the Euros, and then they got knocked out in the group stages of the World Cup as well. So they haven't really had a good 2 past tournaments, so it's a bit hard. But then it also depends on Spain and what the squad is that they take. Because when I looked at the Euro squad and the fact that we only had 1 striker, actually. No, 2, because of Gerard Moreno, who plays there sometimes, but normally plays wing as well. But it was not exactly a squad that filled me with confidence. So, yeah, it depends on the Spain squad. If we can have a good Spain squad, and also you got Pedri, who's got another year under his belt as well. So
De Gea in form.
Yeah.
Which means that no Unai Simon air kicks like he's Paul Robinson.
I don't know if De Gea will start, to be fair. I don't even... He might make the squad, but I don't
Based on his form this year, I feel like he has to, surely. I mean, I don't watch a lot of La Liga.
Do you know what I heard? I'm going to mention a hot take I heard from, I think it was Girk, saying that De Gea is not in the top 5 this season goalkeepers.
What, for Prem or for...
This is taking it off topic by a mile now, but this season, De Gea has not been a top 5 goalkeeper according for I think Prem or general, but for Prem I think was the actual.
I'm just trying to think. He's gonna say Alisson's number 1, Ramsdale. Hopefully,
yeah.
I'm saying that he's probably predicting in there.
I believe you mentioned Ramsdale. Yeah,
he's probably going to randomly put Edison in there as well.
I'm sorry, but
if got slated for it.
Man United didn't have De Gea this year, then they would be in a far worse situation than they are.
Agreed.
Oh, they would be possibly struggling to be top half.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
I think they'd be hanging on to about 9th, 10th. They'd be behind Wolves for sure.
Yeah, no, the guy despite everything, and I always admire this about a player, is despite how bad the team might be in front of him, he hasn't dipped his performance. Whereas, unfortunately, a lot of
Yeah.
that team have done that.
Because as soon as he started doing good, it feels like a lot of their players have started getting very bad. So Luke Shaw's had a very bad season. This has turned to a United rant more than it has a World Cup draw. But United rant start. Luke Shaw's been terrible. Harry Maguire shouldn't be getting called up for England based off merit, same way Pickford shouldn't. It should be doing so. I saw a thing from Rory Jennings, which I think I agreed with him, where the mentality of us saying, yeah, but they've been good for England, they've not done us wrong, might even be holding us back. Where we go, we need to keep selecting Jordan Pickford. His form's awful, but he's not stepped a foot wrong for England, which is true, but it's not giving someone else a chance who's also not either had a chance to do stuff for England, or I mean, in Ramsdale's case, he did for the under-21s, I think, and the likes, but it's holding other people back. So Maguire being there is meaning Fikayo Tomori, who's had an amazing season, doesn't get into the squad, let alone into the starting 11.
Yeah.
And that's someone who I think would be interesting to actually see in the England squad.
And it's that thing, though, isn't it? It's yes, I get it, that experience at big competitions plays a part, but it shouldn't play the part that means that they play over somebody else. Like, you can take people with experience. You can take them. You don't have to play them, but you can take them because their experience of playing is as good as being there to be able to offer advice to some of the other players that are there. And I do think that is a massive thing. So, yeah, Jordan Pickford will still go. There's no doubt he would still go. But he doesn't necessarily
100%.
need to have his place. However, he can help a lot of those goalkeepers with his experience in games when they're going into their games. And he knows a lot about players that he's come up against in his international games that he can give a few tips on, or a few, just anything, any information, anything to watch out for, anything to just help an inexperienced goalkeeper who isn't just going to perform, because they're a professional goalkeeper at the end of the day and that's their job. They also need to have just that little bit of extra info, or that little bit something extra against the team just to help them out. But it doesn't mean, like you say, that people should be missing out on their opportunities. And the biggest one for me is Harry Maguire. I don't understand how we're still playing a defender who, price tag aside, because we know that he's more expensive because of English prices for Premier League players. It always is the case that they're more expensive. It's just a case of the guy is not worth the value this year, and probably wasn't at the time, of any other defender in the Premier League, like, that isn't English, like a Van Dijk, for instance. He's not that caliber of defender. And so you can't now go and say we're going to rely on this guy to be our centre back when he's not been able to do it all season for his own team in one of the biggest competitions in the year. Because unfortunately, the way we are and the way things are always been is, if we lose, and say, for instance, our sort of superior run comes to an end, we don't get to a semi-final or final, and actually we sort of barely make it out of the groups and we go out just after the group stages, as Gareth Southgate's job that goes, he's going to be the one that will end up losing his job because we've taken a defender, or we're using a defender. And yes, I know it is his decision to pick a team, but I feel like we need to drop that stigma of, well, we need to take this player because he's the one who's been there during these semi-finals, during these finals that we've gotten to, and actually take a risk and think, no, it is time. The guy's out of form. Yes, we did get to a final because he was in the team. Whether he, directly played a part or not, he was in the team. And, we need to now make some changes and bring on some players that actually deserve to be in their positions. Because if not, their careers are going to soon go by, aren't they? When, they should have been playing games at a high level for England, and they aren't going to get the chance, and they're going to miss out.
To get back on it, I think Fikayo Tomori should be in the squad over him.
Yeah.
He's not... I don't think he's had a game with the England national team. Mark Gay has. I mean, Mark Gay starting for the last one, Tariq Mitchell. I think stuff like that against Ivory Coast and Switzerland was the right thing to do. Give some players that could possibly get on the plane, or even ones that won't, give them some experience. Why are we not calling up Tomori? He's been arguably one of the best defenders in the Serie A. He's winning the league, I believe, currently in the Serie A. I've got some stats here. I know I remember seeing stuff specifically saying top of. I can't find that at the moment. But I'm looking at his defensive stats. Man's made, out of 59 attempted tackle, he's made 53 successfully, 90% record. The man knows what he's doing.
Yeah. And we are past,
so I don't know.
We're past that old stigma that we used to have now, where we tend to not play English players that are in different leagues. Like, we kind of broke that. Well, it was broken a little bit with Hargreaves,
Trippier.
And then we fully broke it when obviously they brought Sancho and Bellingham back into the team. So it's not like it's
even
not
Trippier
like,
at Atletico Madrid as well.
and kept Trippier in when he moved to Atletico. So it was not like we're doing it because we're saying, oh no, but we've got too many players now that play in different leagues, so they don't play with each other week in, week out. That's past that. We need to play, like you say, those that are performing best in their position. Like chemistry and all that sort of stuff, that will come. But at the end of the day, once again, they are professional footballers, so they should know. And also, it's not like Tomori doesn't know any of these players. He did play at Chelsea for a while.
Tomori's got the best defensive stats in Serie A this season as well, out of all centre backs.
That's
just put that out there.
That's the stuff I was trying to find.
That's
the stuff I was trying to find, like what he's top in.
It makes it mad. It makes it a madness then, doesn't it? That he's not in the conversation.
It worries me that we use the international friendlies in a way to try out Mark Gay and to try out Tariq Mitchell, but we're still trying Harry Maguire out.
Yeah.
When if we should be using these as ways of trialing as many players as whether this person will fit the system, etc. People make the argument, and with Harry Maguire, firstly I want to ask, what do you think of him being booed? Do you think that was right? Do you think that was a bit harsh, or what's your take on Harry Maguire being booed on the pitch? And then to follow up, another point that people make is that he's actually good in a 3-back, and United don't play a 3-back, hence he looks so suspect this season. And Shaw playing a wing-back role that supposedly doesn't suit them as much is some of the arguments I've heard. So what's your thoughts on that, I guess?
So the thing is, it's a bit like us having a discussion and vocalising what we think about it now for those that are booing, isn't it? It's a much more negative, public way of doing it. The only thing I would say is that, like you say, a lot of it isn't down to his decision to be there on the pitch, so yes, he shouldn't be picked, but we should be using that game, especially the Ivory Coast game. We should be using that kind of game because, let's face it, like, Ivory Coast, on paper, not a bad side, but really we should be beating them. I think in that scenario, that is our perfect time to try out some different centre backs. Now, are we trying out Harry Maguire? Is that what is actually happening here? Are we trying him out because his form is so poor that we want to see, has he still got it for the England badge? And is that a factor? Do we stick by somebody who's still doing it for England despite his league form? I don't think, like I say, I don't think you can, because if you do that, then no one else is ever going to get the opportunity. Or are we trying him out because we want to see if he's not up to form, and he is at the form that he's been playing at Man United for, then we now need to look at other options. Well, that would have been the match for me. That would have been the match where we'd have had two different centre backs. It wouldn't have been Mings and Maguire. We'd have had Mings and Gay from the start.
Yeah, I mean, we like to play 3-back, so yeah, that plus maybe Tomori or Stones in the case that I think he was fit and then got injured. Like, you want some of the same people there, so you
need to have some
Young,
of it.
the same Maguire's, same old, have him in there alongside the two. But I think we've touched on that for long enough. I think we're going over on this by a country mile, so we'll just quickly touch on the rest of it. So this started off talking about De Gea, fun enough. So Spain, Germany. I think personally, I back Spain over Germany, which is probably actually no. They changed manager.
Germany over Spain.
Germany over Spain because management's now changed. I think Hansi Flick's now gone to them, hasn't he? Is he at Bayern? I can't remember which way around it was, where he's going from Germany to Bayern or Bayern to Germany. So I think Germany will have the edge tactically now based off how they were in the Euro 2020/21. Japan to finish above Costa Rica. Japan got to the knockouts of the last World Cup. They went out to Belgium, I believe. in was it the quarterfinal or the round of 16?
I think it was round 16.
One of the two. Yeah, that's really hard to imagine
sure.
them getting much further than that. Talking of Belgium, that brings us to Group F quickly. They got an interesting group. We got a group that's got two of the last World Cups semi-finalists, one of them being a finalist actually. So second and third place at the last World Cup, Belgium and Croatia, alongside Canada and Morocco. So do we see anything out of the norm with Croatia playing against Belgium, or do you think their poor performance at the Euros is a sign of things to come with Croatia sort of getting through in second?
I just think Belgium are a force. So
Belgium are like PSG though. Belgium are the PSG of international football.
I just feel like
They show a lot of promise. They talk a good game, and then they go out in the knockouts without much of a fight. Obviously, last World Cup is a different sort of being there, with them beating England twice. So this might sound like I'm being really harsh, but they've always been the team that everyone's picked to be. Oh, they're the dark horse of this tournament. Golden generation. Hazard, De Bruyne, Lukaku, Courtois, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, all these big names down the years, Mertens, we could keep going, and they always seem, outside of one tournament, have sort of floundered, maybe round of 16, maybe quarterfinal, and not gotten any further. It's sort of what you could say of England if we hadn't had the last two tournaments.
Pretty sure as well, if Belgium come top, they've got to play, well, I think even if they come second, they've got to play Spain or Germany in the round of 16. So that's going to be a tough
I think
match.
so. Their side of the draw is not a fun one,
No.
from what I can see. Because on the rest of that side of the draw, you've got Group G, Brazil,
Brazil's group.
Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon. And in Group H, you've got... I think this is probably the most balanced group outside of the England group. The England group, you've got teams that can do it. So if USA, on their day, they've got a very good team on paper. So Dest, you've got Pulisic, you've got... I'm not thinking the names right now, but there's some convincing names in there. You've got some names in Group H, Portugal being the big hitter. Ghana obviously did really well at 2010 World Cup. Should have been in the semi-final, but they were held back by the other team in this group, Uruguay. So that's a grudge match. Grudge match in the group stage between Ghana and Uruguay. I cannot wait for that as final game. So Heung-min Son and the South Korean team, this could go many ways, because there are some good South Korean footballers. You could argue they're a one-man team all you want. They seem fairly unified when they played in the last World Cup, beating Germany on the final day, meaning they finished third in the group, not fourth. Uruguay, are they past it? The centre mids are good, but you've got an ageing Suarez, an ageing Cavani, Muslera. It feels like their last chance before they're left with only Valverde, Bentancur as the sort of upcomers, and Jimenez is still in there. Outside of that, from Uruguay being semi-finalists and having recognisable names, I feel that generation's slowly dying off now. And Ghana, you've got Thomas Partey, you've got, on FIFA it's good, Achiampong and the likes, but I think this is going to be a really balanced and interesting group that
I think that's going to be an
Portugal
interesting group.
should finish on top of. But the battle for second, I don't think I can say. On paper, you'd think it would be Uruguay, but that could be the one where it springs a surprise, and even Ghana get out of the group, or South Korea. I couldn't tell you who finishes first through fourth, or second through fourth.
Yeah.
I think Portugal should get there, but they've tripped and spluttered in recent times as well. So it's an interesting group draw. England have got the easy draw, as we'd like to call it, like we did at the last World Cup. We're like, oh, we can lose the group, and then we're on the easy side of the draw.
Yeah.
Any game's difficult given the circumstances. I mean, Scotland got a draw against us in the Euros. Wales, was it drew of us at the Euro 2016, or was it they beat us? Because I know there was a Gareth Bale worldie in there.
Gareth Bale worldie, yeah, I remember seeing it.
Was that a draw? Was that a... I know my brother was fuming because he bought tickets to go to the game. He bought tickets to go to the first knockout game for the team that came top of that group, and it was Wales.
Yeah, I think I
he had
got
a nice
feeling
time.
It was a draw.
It was either draw or loss, and I'm leaning more on draw personally. So that's the World Cup draw, and then to move quickly into the This Week in Football segment, we've touched on the Arsenal game. That means that I'm going to say there is a Palace player in Team of the Week, and I can almost certainly tell you who it is. Joachim Andersen. Joachim Andersen's getting an inform. 100%. 2 assists, clean sheet. There's not a way in hell he doesn't get one. I will gladly be corrected.
Mers
gladly
disagrees or agrees. He's not happy.
It's an 84 rated Anderson as well, because he's got a man of the match. I think he's got an 81 rated man of the match. I might be wrong.
Yeah,
I know Gay's got an. I know Gay's got one. I don't remember. I mean, I'm not saying it's not a thing. I just don't remember when it came out.
Yeah, he got a man of the match.
Fair play. Good knowledge. So to go through the Footbin one, and I will make some tweaks here and there based off games I know happened. Jan Sommer gets the goalkeeper spot with Johnny, Skriniar, Emerson Royale, which I'm going to disagree with. I think it should go to Doherty on the left, but 1 goal, 1 assist, clean sheet, as opposed to 1 goal, useless defensively, liability all over. Diogo Jota, Conrad Lima got 2 goals and an assist. Milinkovic Savic, Mbappe getting an upgrade on his headliners. I believe he got 3 goals, or it was either 3 goals, 2 assists, or 2 goals, 3 assists. Whichever way around that is. Raheem Sterling in a drubbing. Jose Morales and João Felix are the starting 11. I can say Joachim Andersen definitely will be in there, though, with 2 assists and a clean sheet. Has to make it.
Yeah.
As for the bench, from what I can see here, there's no real standouts. There's people that have got cards down the years, or we've noticed already have cards. So Jiku, who's got the FUT birthday this year, he's got an inform coming supposedly. Muslera, who we mentioned briefly in the Uruguay talk, he's got an inform possibly coming. Juanmi, Mr. Player of the Month, I'm going to say, from January.
Yeah,
He's got one coming at left mid. Olsen, the Silver Stars, looking like he's getting one. And Onachu, the Nigerian from the Belgian league, is looking like he's getting one as well. But I think that's a fair representation based off the games I saw. I do want to briefly touch on the madness, though, in that we didn't touch on it earlier because I don't think I even mentioned McKennie and Brozovic. But that intergame was outrageous in the 45th minute. I think you'll agree, guys.
Yeah, I've seen the video.
I made both these two watch it.
And
I made both of them watch it because I saw it happening live on my phone and saw my phone go yellow card, yellow card.
Yeah, it's the maddest thing to happen in such a high-profile game, but it's also the maddest series of events to happen in a football game that I've seen in a long time. After watching it, I could obviously see why it happened and what came to that decision, but yeah, it's just crazy.
Because in my opinion, depending on when the referee blew, he could. Because did he blow before the ball went in?
It looks like he blowed pretty much as it was going into the net.
Could he have not just given the goal as an own goal?
Yeah, I suppose it would have saved some of the
To recap for those who do not
controversy.
know, to recap for those who do not know, I highly recommend looking this up and finding it. It is, to start off with, there's a penalty given away by Alexandro. He gets booked. Then there's a weird penalty where he sort of hit it not down the middle but not to the side. It's gone somewhere in between. Really weak, poor penalty from Çalhanoğlu. It's saved by Szczesny. De Ligt gets in the way, and then Danilo follows in, stumbles over, flicks it up towards the goal, and Rabiot kicks it in the roof of his own net. But then there's a foul declared because Çalhanoğlu supposedly fouled one of them. He didn't. Spoiler, I don't think he did at all. But then turns out the Ligt came from encroaching. He encroached in the box. So from encroaching in the box, he's then got the block, which meant that the own goal got disallowed. The free kick that was given to Juve got taken away, and it got a retaken penalty where he's then found the side netting has Hakan Çalhanoğlu. It was immense drama. Watching that unfold, there's originally when that free kick gets given, Inter players are surrounding the ref. Then you get a picture of all the Juve players surrounding the ref once it gets overturned, and then Allegri's taking off his jacket and throwing it across it. Allegri's a picture. If you see one picture from this, just look up Max Allegri really, really angry. It's perfect.
I would say, first of all, if you got it all from that audio description, fair play to you, because it is an absolute... It's chaos, isn't it? It's just chaos. Pure chaos.
It's mental chaos.
So you do need to watch the clip to understand exactly how mental we are saying this is. But yeah, essentially, it all could have been avoided if they just realised straight away that De Ligt was encroaching the penalty. But it is what it is. I suppose the whole series of events has unfolded. Because they put it back in the net, it's escalated even more. Because they're initially looking at it being another foul, that just escalated it more. It's just crazy. It's insane. And I can't believe...
And I
can't believe they got away with no red card in that game.
Yeah, Lautaro Martinez has possibly kicked Locatelli in the face. And I've only seen still images of it, so I haven't seen it in motion, whether it's just a high foot that's gone wrong and he's headed into it, or whether it's like Mane against Ederson that time. But yeah, it looks bad. Locatelli went off injured as a result, so
he's in danger to play.
It seems bad. Yeah, which he got a yellow card. He possibly could have got second yellow after that as well, from what I've heard. Whether I'm just listening to sort of biased Juve fans, we'll wait and see. I have to watch the extensive highlights. But what I've failed to mention here with the Ligt getting the block, there's about three Juve players and an Inter player going for that one ball.
Yes,
all sliding.
Yeah, everyone's just gone. So
that's the one detail I miss. It's hilarious. There was more questions than answers there.
And it's just one of them as well. If there wasn't a VAR in that situation, then that situation probably escalates, probably makes it worse in the whole long run of the event of the game, doesn't it? I think, because they've kind of at least
that would have been a free kick to Juve at that point.
Yeah, it would have been a free kick to Juve, and I think that then causes even more problems. At least from VAR being involved in that, the definitive decision is, actually, it doesn't matter what happened in the aftermath because De Ligt ran into the box during the penalty. And everyone can see that. But if that isn't the case, then, and we don't have VAR and no one does know what happened, then I think it just sets an even worse tone for the game than it was already present. But yeah, it's chaos. It's just absolute chaos.
It was chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Hello everyone that's listening to the podcast on the streaming sites, and everybody that can visually see me on YouTube. Hello. I'm also with the little man, the one that caused me to have a week off from the podcast, the one who accidentally broke his arm, didn't you? But say hello to everybody on the podcast. Hello, surprise guest basically for the podcast. So there is no Q&A for this week. Unfortunately, some footage corrupted, so now this is the end of the podcast. So everybody that is listening, thank you for listening to this week's episode, and we'll see you next week, and Q&A will be back. So if you submitted a question, we'll probably be answering it next week instead. But thank you for listening, and Brad and Luke say thank you for listening as well, and we will all see you next week. Goodbye. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.